What is going on, ProGuides family? My name is Matt and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the latest patch coming to Valorant, patch 1.12, and our latest tier list. But before we get into all that, you all know what time it is. It is of course time for our question of the day. Today's question is, how have you been adapting to the release of Skye? Having only been about a week since she has actually been playable, I've seen a lot of different opinions about her. Personally, I think that she is pretty sweet and has a lot going for her. The flashes might be a bit overreaching, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Riot coming at them sometime in the future. What about you though? Have you had a similar experience with Skye, or have you been a bit more frustrated by her antics? Let us know in the comments down below. With that being said, let's start talking about what's been happening in the past patch. Starting things off today, I think we need to talk a little bit about the previous patch, 1.11. As I'm sure many of you know, the patch was actually delayed until Monday, November 2nd, almost a full week. There were a lot of issues with the launch of Skye and other aspects to the game, so Riot needed some time to figure out what was going on and fix it. With that though, Riot let us know that while it didn't impact their patch schedule, this patch was going to be a smaller one than usual. This is actually probably the best thing for the game's health, as having some time to let the game sit without too much change will allow Riot to be sure that most of the bugs have been ironed out and that they can start working on balance again. Plus, with First Strike coming up next month in December, I'm sure Riot isn't too eager to change up the meta too heavily. Be sure to stick around though, as we still have our tier list for this patch coming up. Getting into the actual changes this patch, the first one actually comes to Act Ranked badges. They are going to be disabled for a while as Riot works on fixing an issue where they're actually causing performance hitches in-game. Your Act rank will still display in competitive lobbies, map load-in, and end-of-game screens, so you can keep track of it as you grind out some more ranked games this week. As Riot put it on Twitter, you can tell people you were Radiant in Act 2, and they can't prove you wrong. For now. Next up today, we have got some nice Observer updates. As I'm sure a lot of you know, the First Strike open and closed qualifiers were pretty recent, and with that we saw a lot of great observing work coming out from it. Be sure to go back and watch some of the matches if you missed them, or get ready for the real First Strike tournament coming soon in December. Riot has removed ping audio for observers, so they no longer have to worry about someone spam pinging on a broadcast. There is better visibility across some sightlines for observers, as well as a game state modification sheet to allow moderators to adjust aspects of the game on the fly. This will be a really useful feature in case any major bugs or crashes happen during a Valorant tournament, so it's good to see these tools being added before they're needed. Lastly, the team colours change from last patch was rolled back, because apparently it was making people a bit confused as to which team certain players were on due to the team colour and a few UI bugs. Alright, I know all you guys have been itching for the tier list, so here we go. Starting things off at our number 1 spot, we have OMEN. OMEN has been performing pretty well over the last few patches, becoming the best controller and arguably agent in the game due to his versatility. Being able to smoke off multiple angles from anywhere on the map, as well as repositioning and a room-clearing paranoia, makes OMEN quite a threat. Luckily though, OMEN doesn't feel too oppressive to play against, and we don't think that he needs many changes. OMEN has always been a reliable pick, but now he has skyrocketed to the top of the list, and we expect him to rest at the top of the S tier. Coming up next in our S tier, we have CYPHER. Once the best agent in the game, in our opinion, for several patches in a row, CYPHER finally received some nerfs last patch, reducing the effectiveness of his camera and tripwires. These changes, while certainly painful, were not enough to keep CYPHER down. Now, through careful positioning and slightly less aggressive play, CYPHER is still an intel-gathering, sight-holding, head-popping nightmare. Just maybe not the best agent in the game. For now. Rounding out the S tier today, we have none other than Breach. Breach was hit with a small buff last patch, increasing his flash duration a bit. This change was mostly seen as unnecessary, but it seems to have worked out pretty well for Breach. Sure, there is a bit of a flash meta going on right now, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, but that only works into Breach's favour. With 3 flashes to spam at the enemies, as well as some good operator disrupting tools for anyone who still dares to use one, Breach is definitely in a comfortable spot. We will have to see if Riot decides that his flash buff was a bit too powerful in the future, but for now, Breach will remain guarding our S tier. Starting off in our A tier today, we have JETT. Good old JETT, once the worst agent in the game, once the best agent in the game, now sitting comfortably high up on the tier list. JETT has dropped a bit on our list since last time, and this mostly has to do with the exiting of the operator meta. During that time, JETT was able to use her mobility and use the operator very effectively with it. Now that the operator has been nerfed though, and there is another clear meta formed, JETT's power level has suffered a little bit. Still though, there is a reason she's at the top of the A tier. She still boasts the best mobility in the game with an ultimate that can remove players from the round as fast as you can click. Just if you decide to pick up an op, remember, it's not what it used to be. Next up in the A tier, we meet Phoenix. Another good old reliable duelist, Phoenix has been performing well for a while now. Never seeming to get quite as popular as some of the other agents, Phoenix has a consistency about his play that is simply too important to go to waste. A good Phoenix player will have you shaking when you see that curveball come around the corner, so you always have to respect the Phoenix's presence on the map, especially with the flash meta that we're seeing develop now. Phoenix will not only be able to blind you as he pushes in, but also light a literal fire under your butt. For that, Phoenix sits comfortably in our A tier. In the middle of A tier, we have RAZE. Seems we are on a hot streak of duelists, and that is because they are all doing pretty well right now. With Sage being nerfed into the ground a few patches ago, RAZE also fell a bit by the wayside. This was because, as Sage's biggest counter, a lot of people were picking her simply because she could counter Sage. Now that isn't really needed anymore, so RAZE hasn't been showing up as much. But that doesn't mean that she still can't kick your butt. Boombot will still track me down through 3 walls, a hallway, and 2 miles of jogging. Paint shells still make me scream like a girl, and her showstopper, well, you know. RAZE definitely isn't a weak pick right now, and not a lot of people are playing her, so if you have always wanted to give her a try, now is probably a good time. Either way, that's RAZE cementing her spot in our A tier. As we move closer to the end of our A tier, we find KILLJOY. An agent we expected to be performing worse since her most recent changes last patch actually seems to be in a pretty good spot right now. Now that KILLJOY has to stay in range of her turrets and alarm bot to keep them active, you don't have to worry about her trying to flank and getting shot or spotted. However, Riot also made picking up and redeploying her abilities easier, and that helps her rotate her abilities from one site to another, which was a big issue for her originally. So now, overall, KILLJOY is more versatile at what she does and less effective at what she isn't supposed to be good at, which is how good game design works. Either way, I'm really happy with how KILLJOY turned out with her latest changes, and I hope we see Riot keep up this habit of good changes. At the bottom of our A tier, we actually find the newest addition to Valorant's roster, Skye. Skye has been rocking the meta boat since she was introduced officially on November 2nd. Being an initiator, she'll be competing against Breach and SOVA for players, and it looks like she definitely has the tools to be effective. With 3 long-range flashes, she has been a vital part of the new flash meta that seems to be making its rounds. There are a whole bunch of flashes in the game currently, and it can pose issues in certain ways, so I think it's going to be interesting to see how Riot handles this growing problem. Other than that, Skye seems pretty well-rounded. She has enough weaknesses in her key abilities to make sure she isn't too overpowered. With that though, we say goodbye to Skye and our A tier. Starting off our B tier for today, we have none other than SOVA. SOVA has been struggling a bit recently with the release of Skye. He is still a very effective agent with his recon and shock arrows, but it just seems that people are preferring to play agents that don't require as much practice as SOVA. That has always been a key weakness of his. You need to dedicate time to learning lineups and how to properly use all your utility as SOVA. On top of that, you've got Skye stealing some of his role, being a loose intel gatherer herself. All in all, SOVA is still a great agent to play, you just need to spend some time with him and then you will see the results. In the middle of our B tier, we have REYNA. Long an agent that we have had even lower on this list, we do admit that REYNA has been performing well recently. Being picked quite often in the First Strike Open and Closed qualifiers gave her the recognition and display of skill that she needed. While she will always be an agent that struggles due to the nature of her design, she is doing well right now and is still a decent duelist to pick up. but you should still take a look at some of the other duelists before settling on her. As we get into our final 3 agents for today, we have Sage. An agent that is definitely in a bit of a slump right now, Sage isn't the best pick. Her barrier orb can get bursted down fast by enemies, her heal is much less effective and might not even heal you in time, and her slow is less effective, but probably the only redeeming quality left in her kit beside her ultimate. I'm sure that Riot is going to be taking a look at Sage soon, but until then, we're going to have to leave her at the middle of our B tier. Rounding off the B tier for today, we've got Brimstone. Another agent that was performing decently well until recently, Brimstone is in a similar slump. With flashes being all the rage right now, it certainly doesn't help that Brimstone doesn't have any. However, his issues stem more from the fact that his Skye smokes are currently probably the best thing about his kit. His stim beacons could use some more looking at, while his incendiary and orbital laser could definitely use some improvements. All around, Brimstone needs some love from Riot to help round out his kit a bit. But for today, he will have to stay at the bottom of our B tier. As we turn to the last agent in our list for today, can you guess who it is? Yeah, that's right, it's Viper. The agent who seems to be in the ultimate slump, Viper has gone through buff after rework after buff, after probably a spa day because Riot has tried a lot to make her work. Unfortunately though, she continues to be too punishing with her toxic screen and poison cloud, while just not bringing the value that a skill trade-off like that should. She needs some love from Riot more than anyone else in the game. So here's to hoping she gets some buffs or another rework soon. Until then, she will of course remain the last agent in our tier list. Well everyone, unfortunately that is all we have for you today. If you did enjoy the video, then please drop a like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss an upload from ProGuides. We upload new videos like this one every single day, so don't forget to check back tomorrow. Alright everyone, good luck, stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next one.